Thank you, Chairman. The recording has now started.
Good afternoon and a warm welcome to the Rural and Community Scrutiny Committee meeting. My name is Councillor Sarah Trotter. I'm the Vice Chairman of this committee. I'm standing in for our Chairman, Councillor Ray Wootton. Unfortunately, Ray is feeling unwell and unable to take this meeting today, so bear with me, please. I'm sure you will join me in wishing Ray a speedy recovery. And also, on another note, I'd like to wish, along with the committee, Councillor Robert Reid, many happy returns of the day. Happy birthday, Robert.
Thank you very much.
Please be aware that although the meeting is taking place virtually, councillors will still be visible, so normal meeting standards and behaviour will apply. Please make sure you are against a stationary background, and keep movement around the room during the meeting to a minimum to avoid visual distraction. Please ensure that your microphone and camera is switched off when you are not speaking. If you wish to ask a question, please use the chat function, which will be monitored by Officer Shirley Zirknall, who is our Acting Principal Democratic Officer. Please do not use the chat function for any questions, comments or discussion, just to indicate that you wish to speak. The meeting will be recorded and the recordings retained in accordance with the Council's document retention policy. Just a further notice within our purdah period, please could I remind all members present that we are currently in a pre-election period, which is a time of heightened sensitivity. I would therefore request that care is taken when participating and making comments. Throughout the meeting, in accordance with government guidance, the Council is able to continue in the discharge of normal business. However, it would be inappropriate for any political points to be made, and if I feel that any member is failing to observe this guidance during their comments, I will be asking them to be muted. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. We'll now move into the first item of the agenda. Are there any comments from members of the public?
We've not received any requests from members of the public to comment, Chairman.
Thank you, Naomi. We'll move on to item 2, register of attendance and apologies for absence. Can I ask Naomi Page to do a roll call, and members please answer by name saying present and ensure that your camera is switched on.
Thank you. We've received apologies from Councillor Mike Exton, Councillor Rosemary Cabery-Brown. I can't see Councillor Cabery-Brown in the list of attendees at the minute. Councillor Philip Knowles.
Present.
Councillor Sarah Trotter.
Present.
Councillor Amanda Wheeler.
Present.
Councillor Linda Wootton.
Present.
And as you said, we've received apologies from Councillor Ray Wootton as well. So the meeting is quorum. You have 4 committee members present.
Thank you for that, Naomi. Could I just also pass on our get well wishes to Mike Exton, Councillor Exton, who I understand is in hospital. Thank you. Right, move on to item 3, disclosure of interest. Are there any members who interest to disclose?
There's none indicated, Chairman, in the chat box.
Thank you. Item 4, can I have the action notes from the meeting held on the 11th of March 2021? This is for accuracy only. Is there any comments?
None indicated in the chat box, Chairman.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Naomi. Item 5, if I could have updates from the previous meeting page, which is referred to page 11 to 12. Is that any comments? If all tasks that have been completed, are there any questions from members of the committee?
None indicated in the chat box, Chairman.
Thank you. I'll then move on to item 6, which is in respect of the mobility scooter policy. Please may I ask for a verbal update from our cabinet member, Councillor Robert Reid, for housing and planning. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Lovely. Good afternoon, members and officers and anybody else that's with you. I fully respect that we're in Purda. I would have had, well, I do have 14 updates for housing and 4 for planning, of which I shall circulate after the election to the chairman and vice chairman for their consideration to be circulated to members. I feel it important. There's a lot going on, and it's after the Purda period is over. We shouldn't wait for you to be informed of some of the statutory things in particular that I promised to keep updated. So I will do that after May the 6th. Turning to the scooter policy, it is good to be able to introduce the scooter policy. It is also beneficial that we have our new Director of Housing, Andrew Cotton, with us this afternoon, and so it's been able to have the benefit of his eyes on it as well. We have had a draft before to consider, and now I am asking that you consider this in relation to storage of mobility scooters in the council's housing stock, that reviews are proposed by the mobility scooter policy, and that it makes necessary recommendations for amendment to report, author and prior to consideration by Cabinet. In doing so, I introduce by saying that we have had a recent review of the mobility scooter storage facilities, as aforementioned, across the sheltered housing schemes, of which I have visited many. Sorry, I beg your pardon, I visited all of them. And of course, the thing particularly to take into account is, owing to the architecture and design of each building, they're all different. And however, they are being stored in council properties inside these schemes, and of course that raises the potential fire and health and safety risks to be assessed. The motor scooter policy and more importantly, the mobility scooter registration scheme has been developed to manage these tasks, and the policy sets out tenants and leaseholders of both sheltered and general needs housing the responsibilities that are owners of the scooters in regard of storage and their charging of their scooters. There will be a requirement for written permission to be granted. No alarm, and they're not likely to be unreasonably held within the new mobility scooter registration scheme. And this will ensure that owners of the scooters will have to comply with safety storage, and in particular charge of the scooters, that adequate insurance is in place, and that the scooter commits to the terms and conditions of the policy, and the scooters have regular portable appliance tests to ensure they are safe. An initial review of the current number of mobility scooters at the council's sheltered houses scheme has been undertaken, and it is anticipated that full flexibility exercise will be needed, and the funding for this will need to be sought. As I've aforementioned, of course, each shelter scheme has its own individuality. The mobility scooter policy and the registration scheme will not be implemented until the appropriate storage and charging facilities are in place. That is my introduction, Chairman. I have read out the considerations / recommendations that I would like the committee to appraise and hopefully endorse. As I aforementioned, I have Andrew Cotton with me to answer any technical questions or to expand, and back over to you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Reid. So I welcome any questions, suggestions and comments from members of the committee. Do you have any questions?
We have a question from Councillor Philip Knowles, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Knowles.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Robert. Are you well?
Afternoon, thank you.
Good. Happy birthday. Just a thought, or just a question, really. Obviously, you can't implement the policy until such time as you've done all the work necessary and you've done adapt. When is that likely to be? Have you got any idea of 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? When is your plan, or when is your option best?
Thank you. It is currently being undertaken, and I would very much hope that in your terms that it's done within 3 months. I haven't actually quite looked. When is the next overview and scrutiny meeting? It'll probably be at the back of the agenda. However, when it next is, I see the 1st of July. Have we got one before then? No, it's the 1st of July. So therefore, I hope that I'll be able to come back with good news on the 1st of July. Similarly, it's a good point for me to demonstrate again how I wish to give updates once PERD is out of the way as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Linda Wootton, Chairman, next.
Councillor Wootton. Linda, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, Madam Chairman. Thank you. I'm having problems with my video, but you can hear me, can you?
Yes.
That's great. Thank you. Firstly, happy birthday, Robert. Hope you have a lovely day. And my question is, I saw that you sent out to 1,300 residents, and I believe you got 71 replies. Could you give us the general consensus of what you asked the residents and what sort of replies that you got back from them, please?
Yes, with pleasure. Is that the total of your question?
I'm sure I think of another one.
Okay, fine. I'd like to introduce Andrew Cotton because this is a good opportunity to involve him in the answers. Andrew, are you with us? You should be.
I am, yes. Thank you, and good afternoon, members. And happy to support committee through you, Madam Chair, of course. So, yeah, unfortunately, 4 weeks in, I've not been cited on the questions that were asked of tenants, but I do know that the responses were, I guess, as you'd expect, primarily from those that were concerned. Usually tend to get more responses, sort of raising concerns rather than welcoming the proposals, and that was around the sort of risk as it was perceived that the loss of independence from a mobility scooter without the adequate storage and charging facilities. That said, of course, that almost the whole point of the policy is those scheme by scheme assessments, looking at what provision can be made within the confines of each individual scheme. As Councillor Reid has indicated, they're all very different. So that was the sort of main feedback and response that we received. in terms of the consultation exercise, and quite right, I think, to highlight that's quite a disappointing response, but unfortunately it is quite typical on consultations of this time. I hope that assists.
Thank you, Andrew. Madam Chairman, I do have some other questions, but if ever other members want to ask their questions, please go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Wotton. I've just got one question to Andrew. As far as, obviously I've read the report, and as far as security, because you say that not always there's provisions to charge the scooters, obviously at the premises. What sort of provisions are you thinking, and what security will you have in place? And just, I suppose it's almost a second question, how are you going to sort of stop outside residents not powering up their scooters? Because I note from the report that obviously a lot of electricity was being used that wasn't for the resident.
Yes, so in relation, I guess, to taking the two questions, so the first one, I suppose, is around the options for proper sort of safe storage and charging of mobility scooters in general. Certainly in terms of previous local authorities that I've worked at, really there's been a range of options. So you can look at the schemes of conversion of existing rooms, that's worked on some schemes, or an integral garage, sometimes sort of left over for when there were resident wardens. So you do a full fire risk assessment, and obviously the appropriate electrical works, but those do allow for the charging points to be integral to the scheme. So they have the security, much the same as the flats do, in terms of being behind a communal door, typically with a residents only entry. The other option is to look at what are called pods. So these are individual sort of small sheds that are usually put on a concrete base with a proper electricity supply too. And those are very, very, very secure. They're lockable, they're self-contained. They meet. Typically, you'd have conversation with the police in terms of crime prevention and get advice on the best location for those with lighting, etc. So they are, generally the whole point of it is to make something that's accessible to residents, safe and secure, based on the layout of the scheme. I hope that answers those two parts.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Just a bit of reassurance, really. Thank you. If there's not any other questions, Councillor Linda Wotton, would you like to pose your other questions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Has there actually been any fires caused by these mobility scooters? And also, I am aware of the areas that are mentioned within Grantham, obviously on page 31. For instance, on Manor Street, you say there's a number of 9 flats on Manor Street and 3 scooters owned by residents. And I'm familiar with that building, so I assume that somebody who's got the scooter in that block is storing it within the building and actually using our electricity for that purpose. And do you have any costing? Have you found out how much extra money we're spending on electricity that is theoretically being taken without our consent, I suppose is the best way to put it. And if I may go on, if you decide to spend 452,000 on providing these hubs or pods, and somebody is disabled and has to go and put their scooter in one of these, what means will they be able to get back to their flat if they're not very good at walking? I'll leave it with you, please, Andrew or Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, can I just come back before we answer that, just on one point that Councillor Wootton raised with regard to the 71 surveys that we have had. There has been some concern, and I would like to reiterate that until the policy is adopted, people are allowed to, our residents are allowed to use their existing facilities and as they are, because that's been one of the anxieties and main questions, believe it or not, that's actually come forward, is a concern that they can continue to operate and indeed charge and house them as it is at the moment. And until we've changed things, yes, they are. I'm happy to also answer to the fact that, to the best of my knowledge, there has been one fire related incident, not within our sheltered schemes. As such, the one related incident was a cable through the window into an outside portable building, and that was at the Riverside. And I'll hand over to Andrew for further explanation and come back if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Yeah, in terms of fires within Tucker Stephen District Council's own housing stock, I've nothing to add to Councillor Robert Reid's knowledge there, which is far stronger than mine. But I am aware that there have been instances of fires caused by mobility scooters, either through poor maintenance of the scooter, hence the importance of PAT testing that Councillor Reid has already mentioned, but also where they're stored inappropriately, have attracted arson. I think there was recently, it's within the past few years, an incident in the City of Lincoln Council, one of their sheltered schemes, where there was an arson attack that spread to the building. So that's, it is a concern, it is a risk that as a diligent landlord we must manage. In terms of electricity usage, I'm not aware of any calculation that's been done along those lines, but clearly, the electricity sort of drawdown for recharging will be small, but it is taken off the landlord's supply where they're charged in communal areas, and clearly that's inappropriate. In terms of the general principles, the landlord supply is there and paid for by the landlord, and it powers the communal areas. It's not there for individuals to use. It's inappropriate.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
May I come back to say that to inform all members, and of course you, Madam Chairman, that a service charge review of all our service charges in our sheltered schemes is being undertaken, and it will include the mobility scooter use as well. As far as access is concerned for disabled users that then need to get from the access pod back to their accommodation, I will bow to better knowledge by our director, but I'm sure that some provision will have to be made, and I look to him for clarification, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Apologies, I do deal with that. So in my experience, typically where there's an issue like that, the user of the mobility scooter would perhaps use a wheelchair to get, from their flat or bungalow to the pod and back again. Because clearly it could be secured in the pod whilst they're out and about on the scooter. But we're not talking about huge distances. Clearly, they will be within the sort of curtilage of the scheme. So based on each scheme assessment, they will be located where it's convenient, I guess would be a good way of putting it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. That's very reassuring anyway for our residents and Councillor Reid. Can I ask, is there any more questions from firstly committee members?
There's none indicated in the chat box, Chairman.
Yeah. Is there any other members on the meeting who wish to ask a question? I see we've got a few visitors. Okay. Yeah. I'll treat that's silence. So, if we refer to page 15, I see that there's obviously 3 options for a recommendation. So if I could, I'll just turn to page 15. So as it says, the option 1 is basically to do nothing. Number 2 is implement the policy but not increase the designated storage facilities or at the sheltered housing schemes. But the preferred option is option 3, implement this policy, increase the designated storage facilities at the sheltered housing schemes, subject to feasibility works and approval of budgets. So if there are no objections to this preferred option, could I ask for a proposer, please?
Proposed.
Lovely, that's Councillor Philip Knowles, and I'm happy to second that motion option. Okay, so we'll put that forward to Cabinet for recommendation. Thank you. Okay, so moving on, if we can move to item 7 on the agenda.
Point of order, you didn't take a vote.
Oh, sorry. Right, well pointed out, Councillor Knowles. My naivety as new chairman. Yeah, if we can take a vote then, please, Naomi, if you could do a roll call. If there's anyone opposing this motion, if you want to put in the chat box.
Is that a vote by exception, Chairman, that you're wishing to take? Yes, if you could indicate if you abstain or against in the chat box. Thank you. There's been nothing indicated in the chat box, Chairman. Yeah,
thank you very much, Naomi. So that's all accepted. Option 3, preferred option. Okay, right, if we're happy to move on now to item 7, the fire safety management plan. Can I ask Councillor Robert Reid, Housing and Planning Cabinet member, to give a report, please?
Yes, certainly, Chairman. First of all, I would also have been giving in an update an HS housing safety update as well, which, as I've alluded to earlier, owing to further hasn't been forthcoming, but will be forthcoming immediately afterwards. That said, I will return to the matter in hand of the fire management plan. Of course, in introducing this, one is I'm sure that being me, but I'm sure everybody is very mindful of the tragedy some time ago, but still very much in our minds, of the Glenfield Tower tragedy. And indeed, it is comforting to be able to remind everybody that we don't have any high-rise buildings of this nature. However, it does not preclude the importance of having our fire safety management plans in place, indeed practiced, and indeed reviewed. This has been drafted, this plan, with the latest statutory and regulatory requirements and best practice taken into consideration, and it's obviously to ensure the our residents remain safe in their homes, and that all our properties are protected whilst significantly reducing risk. The consultation has been undertaken by our very able interim housing management manager, Paul Crowe, and indeed the service that's under his management. The Council's Health and Safety Officer and Senior Compliance Group, and most importantly, Lincolnshire Fire and Rescue Services have been included. Due to the ongoing government's reform of building and fire safety, the fire safety plan will be kept, as in my earlier part of the introduction, under constant review, and will remain compliant with the necessary statutory regulation requirements and best practice as by way of recommendation. And I am already under an assurance and an oath to your scrutiny group to give regular updates in any event. It is proposed that the policy is vigorously reviewed, and indeed that the adjustments are considered to be done thoroughly and but initiated by what I put forward to the scrutiny group, to which I value their eyes and ears as well. Turning to the recommendations themselves, I am asking that the committee approves the fire safety management plan that is attached from the notes, and reflects that it has the latest government fire safety advice and best practice. Notes from the fire safety management plan will enable the council to comply with its statutory and regulatory obligations whilst ensuring our residents remain safe in their homes. Because we do, just breaking from the recommendations, we do have some policies in place to stay put in certain situations in our sheltered schemes whilst assistance comes to them. Point 3, that the committee indicates its support and approval to the adoption of the fire safety management plan to Cabinet, which I will be taking for them to appraise after you good selves. The committee receives a further report within the next 6 months confirming the progress made in implementing this, and that the policy is kept under detailed review every 12 months to ensure that the compliance with the regulatory or statutory changes are complied with. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have, as you have now heard, his voice and indeed his authority and ability to assist me, Andrew Cotton, our new housing director, and it's over to you and indeed any questions your committee members might have for us to look at. Okay.
And Andrew, you're on mute. Are you still there?
Yes, still here, Councillor Trotter.
Yeah. Do you wish to add anything?
Well, just to support what Councillor Reid has said, in terms of the development of the fire safety management plan, key part in meeting our regulatory requirement, in delivering the home standard. I think it's a very thorough piece of work, which I can take very little credit for. 4 weeks in post, but I was impressed by the breadth of the management plan and the detail contained. I think it's based on really sound principles in terms of our statutory and regulatory responsibilities, and also puts in place that important model that the HSE expects to see, which is plan, do, check and act. There is that constant review both of the plan itself and its efficacy, but also the risks posed by our buildings, ensuring that they're thoroughly appraised on a regular basis and any actions are picked up and completed within a reasonable time frame. Happy to support with any questions that the committee may have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. Do we have any questions, please, for Andrew from the committee members?
It looks like Councillor Amanda Wheeler is trying to indicate in the chat box that she wishes to speak.
No, actually, I was going to say I have no questions. I'm very happy to propose it. I think it looks excellent.
Yeah. If there are no other questions, thank you, Amanda. So if we'd like to, as a committee, approve the fire safety management plan. Amanda wishes to propose it. Do we have a seconder?
Chairman, please. You have two options that.
Sorry, option 2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But I think Councillor Wootton wants to speak.
Councillor Wootton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Amanda. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions, but you whizzed away there, so you caught me out. If I can find them, just bear with me. Yeah, I just got a couple of questions. It's quite obvious this policy relates a lot to the Grenfell accident, and I have a question on the stay put, because I believe that was in place and that actually attributed to people losing their lives. I'm aware we don't have any very high-rise buildings in our stock, so perhaps that's a good thing. So do you actually have something in place for residents at the moment, and are tenants given fire procedures within their handbooks so as they know about escaping from a fire, etc., etc.? And have we actually spoken to Lincolnshire Fire and Rescue? I think Councillor Reid mentioned that they have been aware of this, and hopefully we are definitely working with them. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Wootton. Happy to come in there. So in relation to the sort of first question, the sort of stay put policy, and quite right to relate that to the Grenfell tragedy. What's really critical, I think, is the sort of interplay, if you like, between any particular building and the occupants, and any fire risk assessment takes into account both the nature of the construction of a building and how well constructed it is with a view to compartmentation, which stops a fire spreading. And the second part is the occupants and any particular vulnerabilities that they have. So clearly a family of people that's fit and able would be able to self-evacuate in a way that someone who is a wheelchair user, for example, wouldn't. So any fire risk assessment will take those two things into account, and your conclusion from that is whether a stay put or evacuate policy is most appropriate. I think the Grenfell tragedy showed that although there was a stay put policy in place, the building was unable to prevent the spread of fire, and clearly that's still subject to an inquiry and an ongoing investigation, but that's certainly the sort of early findings. So bearing that in mind, we do need to develop that sort of suite and range of information for tenants. I will have to revert to committee in terms of the information that's currently provided, and I'm happy to do so, Madam Chairman. But we will need that to develop that suite, depending on the whether someone is an occupier of a low-rise block of flats or a sheltered scheme, for example. In relation to the fire safety plan management plan that's proposed, I think it does have that flexibility contained within it. I think the plan is very sympathetic to the different types of building that the council has, and the sort of appropriateness of different approaches depending on the different buildings and different residents that we have. Happy to come back with more information for the committee in relation to that point about the information we give tenants at present.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Has anyone got any more questions for Andrew or Councillor Reid?
There's none indicated, Chairman.
Is it appropriate to go back to obviously Councillor Wheeler proposed option 2, and I'm happy to second. Is that appropriate to move forward to the vote?
Yes, if you've had a proposal and a seconder, Chairman, yes, you can certainly move forward to a vote, yes.
Yeah, and can we vote by exception again as before?
Certainly, Chairman. If anyone wishes to indicate if they are against or abstain, if they could do so in the chat box.
Thank you. That's the fire safety management plan is approved to go forward to Cabinet. Thank you. Right. Moving on to agenda item 8. Can I have a compliance update, please? Can I ask Councillor Robert Reid to give us an update, please?
Certainly, Madam Chairman. I will first give you an update by way of introduction, and then in the usual manner we'll take any questions and move to the recommendations lastly. So the report establishes the regular updating to this committee relating to the compliance activity for housing services with consistent headings around the compliance issues for ease of reference. Members are asked to refer to the appendix to see the changes in respect of the 6 core areas of compliance. These form the focus of the regulator at this time. The report identifies progress made and issues arising since the last committee met on the 11th of March. And I will provide a further update after PERDA as aforementioned, because I consider that your next meeting in July to be too far away without an update. The new initiatives are also identified. These will make a particular contribution to the regularity and indeed any statutory changes. Members, please note the intention to acquire and install the real-time IT platform, which can't come quick enough, to obtain tenant feedback and understanding trends in the service experience from our customers. And I will again be giving members an update on that in a couple of weeks' time. Finally, I ask for views about the details that are provided, and if necessary, any suggestions that could come forward to capture the detail from the committee in the review of future meetings. That is basically my introduction. The recommendations are that the committee notes the latest compliant position following the meeting on the 26th of March that was with the regulator of social housing, and that the committee receives a further update report at the next scheduled meeting, which is already a statutory undertaking from before. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I look forward to any questions, debate, and indeed I hope some members will see in Appendix 1 some improvements from the last meeting we held.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Can I open it for any questions, please, to the committee? Members?
There's none indicated so far in the chat box, Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any questions from non-committee members?
Again, none indicated, Chairman.
Chairman, if I may be permitted to just give a point of information in addition to what's before members, and that is to confirm that our housing compliance meetings, which have been undertaken since the very start of these findings on a weekly basis. I know we are in, I think it's from memory, version 73 or 74 now of the updates that have been held by the Chief Executive, the Leader of the Council, myself, and the interim Assistant Head of Housing, Chris Stratford. They've now been strengthened for the time being. Sorry, I beg your pardon. They've been strengthened by our Director's appointment, Andrew Cotton, and they remain strengthened by our Assistant Director still for some months ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. I personally have confidence that everything is being done to improve going forward, and you know, and I know that our Chief Executive, Carol Bradford, she has been on previous meetings, but she's not able to be in this meeting. But I'm sure going forward, we're welcome to have any updates in the next meeting from her. Thank you.
Councillor Trotter, I am here. It's Karen Bradford.
Yeah, I just wondered if, sorry, I should have noted your present. If you wish to say anything, Karen, we'd welcome it.
I'm just putting my video on, see if I can get it to work. Not that you need to see me, you can hear me. Good afternoon, Chairman, and thank you for asking me to come in. Yes, thank you very much. It's very pleasing to report the compliance update as we continue to make, you know, big strides forwards in improving the compliance of our housing service. Last week, myself and Andrew and Chris Stratford met with the social housing regulator. Again, a very positive discussion, very challenging discussion by the regulator, but they are extremely pleased of the continuous progress that we seek and we are making. I do take, and I'm sure my team really do take a lot of value from meeting weekly with Councillor Reid and Councillor Cook to make sure there's that joined up strategic leadership in improving housing for all our residents and all our tenants. So pleased with the progress. We've still got a long journey to go, but very positive. But happy to be here to answer any questions as well. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Karen. I'm sorry that I missed you. I was probably too busy concentrating on being chairman at this point. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Chairman, we have a question indicated from Councillor Linda Wootton, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wootton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to ask a question on Appendix A. If somebody could just sort of explain to us, if I pick, for instance, gas, and in the comments it says Magistrates Court currently not hearing injunction requests for no access. So how many people are we actually taking to court because we can't gain access into their properties? And we've just gone through the fire risk assessments and that's ongoing, and I understand that. And perhaps you could make a comment on the electrical as well, just to give us a little bit of what's going on, if you don't mind, please. Thank you.
Chairman, I'm quite happy to start on that one, but I'm sure Andrew would probably come in on this one. Yeah, we've got 45 outstanding gas inspections at the present time. We have tried and very much tried again to get into these properties to do what we need to do for the gas inspection. We do hold the requirement to have this gas inspection, and we've got a number of ways forward to make sure that we are compliant on this. We have worked with these tenants tirelessly to try and get access to the properties to make sure that we're fulfilling our health and safety duty. the worst case scenario is we will have to go to court to seek access. Now, I don't know if Andrew can give us an update actually on the numbers that we are, or Councillor Reid could give us a number, but these 45, if we've got 45 outstanding, Councillor Reid and myself want this at 0, and I'll be happy when it's at 0, but I'm sure Andrew and Councillor Reid will be able to offer more.
Yeah, I can confirm that these outstanding cases are with legal, and legal summons is firstly being intimated and will then be pursued, because we obviously want it at 0, but we are struggling, like we are still at the Riverside, to get, I think it's the last 2 there, to be compliant with their hot water upgrades. It is a normal, I'm afraid, but we will get there, and it will be done by legal enforcement here on if our intimated intentions there's no reply to.
Yeah, happy to come in and expand there, Chairman, through you, of course. So the cases that Councillor Reid has spoken about, clearly legal action is always the last resort for us, but we are at that position in relation to gas servicing. We do, and we are currently looking at any properties that may have external meters, which means that we can give notice and then cap the gas, and take that action as a landlord. That usually does tend to, in my experience, lead to the tenant engaging and making sure that we can test the gas boiler and issue the appropriate safety certificate. It's always the target to hit 100% gas compliance, and we will work tirelessly to achieve that. But we are in the hands of the legal system post sort of the COVID lockdown and their capacity as well. In relation to the electrical testing, so this is testing both the communal areas that we touched on, talking about the mobility scooter policy, so testing the landlord supply, making sure that that's safe, and also testing within individual dwellings, so a flat or bungalow or house. If there are any, there's different categories of issues that can be found, category 1, 2 and 3. Any category 1 or 2 faults that are found, which are sort of medium or high, will be addressed immediately by the contractor. Category 3 faults, which are minor, will be picked up as part of routine works and sort of cyclical maintenance. So that figure's crept up, but it is the nature of it, I'm afraid, that it's a slow job, but it's really pleasing to see improvement right across those key compliance sort of areas. Happy to take any further questions, of course, Chair, through you.
Thank you very much for all your answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Councillor Rosemary Cabery-Brown. Rosemary, do you have any questions?
No, I'm fine, thank you. I've read the agenda before I arrived, and I'm sorry I was so late, caught in traffic. That's why I'm running late, but I'm listening and I'm here. Okay.
No problem. Thank you for your attendance, anyway. Have we got any other questions from committee members?
None indicated, Chairman.
Just one point of information, Chairman, if I may, and that is to add where we are to answer the electrical question from Councillor Wootton. We have now undertaken a contract with Gen 2 to expedite these electrical testings, so we are getting on with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, I welcome all your hard work, continuous hard work, Councillor Reid, and also that of newly recruited Andrew and Karen. Thank you also for your input. So if there's no further questions, can I ask that the committee, that we support the compliance update. Naomi?
Propose, if you need a proposer.
Yeah. So can we have a proposer and a seconder and move to the vote, please?
Propose.
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Wotton. And is that a seconder or proposer? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
I propose or a seconder, whichever you wish.
Yeah, lovely. So Councillor Knowles proposes the motion, and I have Councillor Wotton as seconding the motion. So if we could move to a vote by exception again, please, Naomi.
If members could indicate if they're against or wish to abstain in the chat box, thank you. There's nothing indicated in the chat box, Chairman.
Thank you, and that's carried. Thank you very much. Right, we'll move to item 9, which is work programme, which I understand is for noting only.
Chairman, may I just beg your indulgence to say how great a comfort it is, not just that we have had the ability of recruiting and welcoming our new Director of Housing, Andrew Cotton, but indeed it is of great management support to me, and I'm sure to all members and officers, that he is with us. And I would like to also report how good I am finding the relationship of us working together is. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Yes, it is very refreshing, and I was fortunate enough, along when Councillor Wotton was feeling a bit better, to have a chat with Andrew, and yeah, we are very much welcome him to South Kesteven. I'm sure we all look forward to working with him. Thank you. Okay. Okay, as we're at the end of the municipal year, we've just we can't plan a work programme as such. Nothing is set for sure in the diary. Is there any other questions or queries in relation to the work programme, please?
Councillor Amanda Wheeler, Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Amanda.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I wanted to say welcome to Andrew Cotton as well, and I'm not sure if this is for this committee or whether I need to take it outside of the committee, but I've had a flurry of correspondence from members in my ward about empty houses. Now, they're not council houses, they're private houses that I've been looking into whether we can do compulsory purchase or EDMOs. And it's something that I'd like to raise, and I'm not sure whether it's something that belongs within this committee's remit, or perhaps Andrew can let me know whether I need to set up a time to talk to him outside.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Andrew, are you able to respond, please?
Yes, yeah, happy to do so, and just to note my appreciation for the kind comments earlier and the welcome that I've received. So yeah, I'd be happy to meet Councillor Wheeler outside this meeting. Certainly, empty homes and the making the most of the housing stock, both of all tenures within the district, is really important. More than happy to set up a meeting to discuss that.
Thank you, Andrew. I see
Chairman,
Karen wishes.
may I just add to that similarly I would like to be involved, and there is a way forward on the rent guarantee system, but because we're in Purda, we're just a bit stuck, and I would already have given an update, but I will do in a couple of weeks' time, I promise.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. I actually had a conversation with Andrew. It wasn't about private housing, but we also had the discussion about some, council properties being empty or being maintained but living in other accommodations. So it has been discussed with Andrew, and he is aware, but certainly, yeah, something for the future to talk about for sure. Thank you, Councillor Wheeler, anyway, for raising that. Karen, I understand you wish to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. It was just to respond to Councillor Reid and Councillor Wheeler. Myself and Councillor Reid have already had a discussion again about empty properties. It is something that we do need to address. I'm being assured at the moment that our numbers are low across the district. However, I do want to see the detail, and we all want to see the detail about what the long-term empties are and the short-term empties are. You have got a council tax programme that actually supports bringing back empty homes into use, and of course a number of these homes may fall into disrepute and they're calling antisocial behaviour and things like that, and we need to make sure that we're working with our parishes and our town councils to make sure our listing is up to date, and whatever action that we can take, then we do look to what in our armoury of powers that we do use. Having worked for many years through with Andrew previously many years ago and with other officers on empty homes, I think it's really important that we do have a framework. We haven't got an empty home strategy in South Kesteven, so it's something that we will need to develop to make sure that we're applying fairly the powers that we do have. I think I've only actually served 2 empty dwelling management orders in the past, so I sometimes feel that we get to that stage and we should have got a solution and a compromise at a different point. So yes, something that it's coming to the forefront of what we need to address. But there's lots of things, and our spotlight has definitely been on our housing stock at the moment. But I do thank Councillor Reid for always reminding me around our empty homes, and Councillor Wheeler for raising it. But only spoke again to the team about it this week.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Wheeler, I understand you wish to speak again.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. It was just for clarification, because I'm relatively new to all of this. When we talk about empty home strategy, does that include the private sector? And when we talk about housing stock, is that the ones that are under management of the council? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
empty homes is private stock. When it's our own stock, it's voids.
So can I ask then, is the empty home strategy something that belongs on the rural and communities work plan? And if so, is it on there? And when will it be on there? Just so I know, because it's something that I am trying to pursue at the moment.
I think, Madam Chairman, this is something that we just need to address. I've only raised it with Andrew this week in his 4th week, and it's something that Andrew will work alongside Claire Moses, our Head of Revenues and Benefits, to develop something up and look at the powers. I mean, there's a lot of experience across this area, and then I think if we can bring it forward to look at when it could be best sit on the work programme, that would be good. And I'm sure Councillor Reid is going to keep also a spotlight on this one as well over the next forthcoming 6 months.
Thank you.
Chairman,
thank you.
Just give a point of information on that. Well, a point of information, a point of clarification from the Chief Executive. My point of information is that she spoke to me this morning about what responsibilities are under my portfolio, and this is yet another one. She's grinning already. I am asking for confirmation that the buck stops here, Councillor Wheeler, so you know who you're talking to.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Reid, and it's very close to my heart as well, with residents approaching me about empty property when there is a long waiting list for homing. So yes, we will ensure that it goes on the work programme, and I fully support the cause as such. Thank you. Have we got any other? Oh yes, Rosemary Capu Brown. Would you wish to speak, Councillor?
Yes, please. I'd like to congratulate whoever it is that at long last I can see that we are pulling down the police houses on the top of opposite the I can't remember the name of the road, but it's opposite the college. Those houses have been there, to my knowledge, empty for nearly 20 years, and I've begged and begged and begged for them to be taken over by our council so that we could let them out. They were really lovely houses at one time. Anyway, I see the bulldozers in now. So do we own the land, and will we be building houses there? That's the questions I'd like to ask. Also, to thank whoever, and I think it's Robert on this, who's pushed to get these things demolished, because it's been heartbreaking to see these houses empty, and we've got so many people on the waiting list. I don't think we could do anything about it, because I think it was county council that owned them, or the police commission or something. But either way, you know, congratulations whoever did push, and thank you very much indeed for progressing on that. The other thing I would like to ask about, it was to do with how many houses, how many shops we've got empty. I know it probably might not come under this jurisdiction, but where we've got shops that are empty in the high street, is there any way that we could use some, don't know quite how to put it, pressure to ask these people that own them, and we all of us know who the owners are, to consider letting the flats above the shops. The shops are empty. These people that own them most of the time are not going to let them go, or they can't let them because they're asking for too long leases and a lot of money. And yet the beautiful flats at the top are empty. And it would be very much a great deal of help to all of us if we could persuade these property groups to allow the flats to be let, whether it be to the council or private. That was just my opinion, and could we consider it, please?
Madam Chairman, could I advise that a position statement on the police houses would be best and most appropriate answered by our Chief Executive firstly? Thank you.
Yes, of course. Karen, are you able to answer?
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Councillor Reid.
On the spot.
On the spot. Yes, we purchased the site a while ago. We've been doing the demolition. We let the contract for demolition of the police houses. It's taken some time because we had to do some habitat assessments and surveys on the site to make sure that we were doing it appropriately. As for the longer term future of the site, we are looking at different options at the present time, and they will go before cabinet before anything is finalised. So that could be building ourselves, that could be building in partnership with somebody else, that could be seeking planning permission and selling the site, that could be just selling the site as a potential housing site. So lots of options to consider. This is one that Andrew will also be leading on, but the good news is, yes, the site which has been an unsightly site for a period of time, has been demolished, or is being demolished, and as we speak now. So I hope that's helpful, Councillor Reid and Chairman. And can I just also suggest that the question that Councillor Rosemary Caberry-Brown has just asked, it's actually not in the remit of this committee. It is actually in the remit of Finance, Economic Development and Corporate Services, but I'm sure one of the team will record what the question that has been asked, and a written response will be able to be given before the next committee meeting.
Councillor Caberry-Brown, are you happy with the responses?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much indeed.
So
Yes, I just feel so strongly that we'd love to see all these shops let.
Yeah.
But until that happens, you know, if you're walking along and you look up, they've all got flats or something about.
Yeah, and I'm sure the relevant committee will be in touch, and you can pass over your concerns, obviously concerns of many residents in the surrounding area of Grantham and Grantham.
Excuse me, could somebody tell me which is the relevant committee and who is chairman of it?
Karen, it's
Councillor Trotter. Yes, it's Councillor Graham Deal, who's the chairman of Finance, Economic Development and Corporate Services for Town Centre Developments and Partnerships. I think one of the things that we do need to explore, as my Assistant Chief Executive reminds me, is these may actually be classified as empty homes, but if it's accommodation above above a shop, there may need to be a change in planning use on that. So we just need to understand if it's an already residential unit or if it's a potential residential unit. And that clarification can be looked at. So I'll certainly make sure an officer speaks to Councillor Rosemary Caberly-Brown and to look at the areas that she would like us to look into, if it's Grantham, Bourne, Market Deeping or Stamford.
Fine, thank you very much indeed.
yes, thank you very much, Karen. Have we got any other questions? No. Okay, so if there's none at this time, I declare this meeting closed today of the Rural and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Thank you.